Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for taking the time to do this, especially on a Friday, and a Friday before we're off on Monday. So it's good to see all of you. I'm Leanne Fuller, and I just wanted to just kick us off, give just a quick introduction and just make some comments regarding, what we're going to have. We've had a couple of sessions this week already. We've had a couple of technical things to work through, but we've also had very large groups, so it has gone over an hour. If you do need to go, feel free to drop off if we do run over the particular time that we've scheduled, or you're welcome to stay to continue. We will be recording a session to put it out there and make it available to you so you can go back and reference this. But I want to just start also by saying, we've heard your feedback. Some of you have given some feedback. With every system, there are going to be problems. There are going to be issues. We've tried to make, quick adjustments where we could. And we have made some adjustments already. And the team will be going over, some of those changes that have been made. So continue to give us feedback. That's the only way we're going to make this system better with the help of you in using it. Our goal is to make sure that you're familiar with the system enough to how you can navigate, to log in, you have access to all the information that you need to know the current status. Onboarding module, the records module, is new for everyone. And we need your help with these, in particular, the students following through and following their instructions to take the actions that they need. And what I'd share with the other two groups, if you've had to handhold the students and stay after them in ways to, hey, make sure you come in, get this done, and following up with them, there is still a level of that needed. It just looks different now. So things are being handled in the system. They can do everything they need in the system online with the exception of actually coming and completing the Section 2 of their I-9 documents, in which they would come to the center. They have to make an appointment. However, we are accepting walk-ins. We haven't turned anyone away. That brought their original documents with them. So just know that, and they have everything is accessible to them as well as you in terms of seeing what has been completed. Also, I mentioned the team will be going over some highlights today and some of those changes that have taken place. If you have any questions, we'll be monitoring the chat. We'll try to answer questions as we go through. So the question that you have, if you could just try to make it relevant to where we are in the presentation, that'll help with the flow, because we could very well be getting to your answer later in the presentation when we actually cover that area. So just make sure that you do that. If there's a question that's not answered, you can certainly reach out to any of us for assistance, and we will do that. And then one last thing before I turn it over, I did send an email out to PeopleAdmin users, and the lists that I pulled were initiators and HRLs. So if you don't have that role, you would not have received it. So if you are interested, basically it was just some high points of, working with us, trying to get those students to get their stuff done, logging into the system, just some bullet points of how you can help. I am happy to forward that to you. So just either put it in chat that you want the email, or I will just make it a point to email to all the participants when we are done today. Some of you may have already gotten it being in that role, and some of you may not have. So I'll just go ahead and turn it over to Amy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Bruce, and I am the Manager of Student and Temporary Employment Services. And this morning, I'm going to talk to you more about the applicant tracking side And then once we get through with that, I'll turn it over to Christine, the manager of onboarding. So we will be toggling back and forth from this presentation to the actual website. So I'm just going to keep it in this format so that it's easier to toggle back and forth. And the first thing I want to cover with you this morning are user groups and their scope. So user groups are determined by each division's human resources liaison and central human resources. So access to the functions in the system is determined by the user group scope. We've got department scope, which is access to individual departments, division scope, which is access to all departments in a division, and then organization scope, which is access to all divisions and departments. And then user groups and scope within the student module, we've got the initiator, which is department scope, HRL student, which is division scope, graduate admin and graduate school, which is organization scope, and then also student employment and records, and they also have organization scope. Moving forward, we want to cover the workflows with you for hiring proposals and onboarding. My workflow will just kind of give you a brief overview of onboarding, and then Christine will go into more detail a little later on. So there's 2 hiring proposals for our student module. We've got undergraduate hiring proposal. That's going to start with our initiator. The initiator is going to send it to the HRL or the HRL student role. Then they are going to approve and send it back to the initiator. And this is where the initiator has the opportunity to send an offer letter. This is not required, but it is recommended. It comes in handy if you ever need to go back and see what the agreement was that you made with the student. Once that offer letter is signed in the system, then you can send it to records. Records just has a final review of all of the information that was put on the hiring proposal. And again, that hiring proposal basically just took the place of that biweekly pay form that you were completing manually. So once records finalizes this hiring proposal, the workflow state does not indicate that the individual has completed all required steps to become employed. It serves as a notification for the onboarding center to assign onboarding tasks to the new hire. So I think that's been a little bit of a misconception. Once you go in and you're looking at your hiring proposals and you're seeing those statuses and you see finalized, you're automatically thinking, well, they've completed everything needed, but that's not the case. At this point, onboarding steps in, then they assign onboarding tasks in the employee records module. And that's of course where the student completes all of the required information for them to become employed with the university. And that does include scheduling appointment to come in and complete section 2 of the I-9. Once all of that information is completed, then it goes back into records queue for entry into Banner. Now we'll move forward to the graduate hiring proposal. This starts with the initiator again, and then it moves to background check. Another misconception and kind of a transition between the manual process and the electronic process is during this time, a lot of departments had already gotten their graduate students to complete their background check. You still have to take the hiring proposal through this background check workflow. Even if they've already completed, all you have to do is then continue moving it forward to the next workflow state. And then just make sure when that little notes box pops up that you put in notes there that says background check complete. Also, at this state in the process for graduate positions, there are a couple of documents that are required to be uploaded for specific positions. So for all graduate assistant positions, they do require a position description that is signed to be uploaded onto the hiring proposal. Again, that's only for graduate assistant positions. Another requirement would be the teaching assistant certification of eligibility form, and that's required for all international GTA positions. And those are the only 2 forms that are required for upload at that point. Once the initiator has done everything they need to do, they can actually send it forward to the HRL Dean review or whoever has been designated to be that approver. Once they approve, they can send it forward to graduate school admin. That graduate school admin is going to make sure that background check was complete with no discrepancy. And they're also going to make sure that all of those required uploads have been uploaded to that hiring proposal. If they are not, they will send it back to the initiator with notes in the system. If you go into your hiring proposals, there is a little history tab. You can click on that history tab and it will tell you any notes that have been noted along the process on that hiring proposal. Also, we have scheduled or set up an email trigger that lets you know if the graduate admin sends it back to the initiator for any reason. So once the graduate school admin sees that everything is good to go, they will then send it to grad school for final approval. There are 2 people in the grad school that actually review these positions. So for GTA and GRA positions, Julie Reese actually reviews all of those and approves and sends forward. For any of the graduate assistant positions, Maria Whitty goes in. She actually reviews the position description that you've uploaded. She makes sure that required verbiage is in there, and then she will sign off, re-upload it, and then move it forward to records for final review. Once records reviews and finalizes, again, this workflow state does not indicate that the individual has completed all required steps to become employed. It just serves as a notification for the onboarding center to assign onboarding tasks to the new hire. So onboarding picks it up at that point. They assign those new hire tasks. Once those new hire tasks have been completed, it then goes into records queue so that they can enter into Banner. Do we have any questions at this point?
We do have one question, and this is, the background check can be done through the system if the code is provided, correct?
So the system is not integrated into verified credentials. All that is, or all that workflow serves as, is so that you can look back and you have notes in there that the background check was actually completed. We do have an email trigger in there to send to your hires so that you can provide them a code and instruction, so then you don't have to manually send them an email to do so. Any other questions? All right, we'll move forward with logging into the system and also saved searches. So to log in to PA7, what you'll do is go to auemployment.com/HR, and you're going to click on that Albee link or picture to actually sign on through single sign-on. Or you can go in through AU Access and then click on the PeopleAdmin AU Talent Management icon. And I'll show you both of those in just a second. And now we're also going to go through saved searches in the system as well. So I'll go ahead and bring up our browser. And I'm just going to type in auemployment.com/HR. You see it's going to take us to this page here. And I do want to point out a couple other things while we're on this page. Again, to sign on through single sign-on, you're just going to click on Albee here. When new hires are actually going in to complete new hire tasks through onboarding, they'll use this username and password field here. But also, if you have designated a guest user account for a TES position or a student position, guest users also have to use this username and password field here to log in. So we're going to click on Albee. It's going to take us through single sign-on. Then it's going to take us into the applicant tracking system. So another way to show you is we're just going to go to AU Access. We're going to click on the Employees tab. And then if you go over here, you see Employee Tools and several icons located underneath it. You'll see over here it says PeopleAdmin AU Talent Management. Click there and it will also bring up the applicant tracking system. If you're not aware of what type of access you have, a good way to see that is once you log into the system, go over here to user groups. You should have a drop down. You can actually click on that drop down to see what user group you have. So I'm going to click on student employment. And now I'm going to cover saved searches. Saved searches is a good way for you to be able to set up a search to view exactly what you want to view when you are logging into your system. So you can do it through postings and through hiring proposals. I'm going to go through postings and show you. And you'll see here, I already have a saved search set up to where when I click on postings through student employment, I see all postings that are in my workflow state that I need to go in and review and approve. So just to show you your options on saved searches, you're going to go over here to the More Search Options button and click on that. And you will have three options that show up. Add column. Add column is where you can look and see how any field that's located on your posting, you can actually add it to your table down here at the bottom. So for instance, if you want to add check distribution, you just click on check distribution and it's going to add over here to the very end. If you want to move these around, all you have to do is click on these arrows that show up. So the left and right arrows is how you would actually move them to the left or right. The up and down arrows is how you would sort them ascending and descending. If you have division access or numerous department access, so if you're an initiator and you have been assigned to 3 different departments, you can actually filter by department here. And then you can also filter by workflow state. So to give you an example, let's say we want to see all positions that are in the workflow state of draft, initiator, student HRL, and student employment. So we're going to click all of those options, and then we're going to click on search. Once you have your table down here exactly how you want it, you can go over here to save this search. You'll click on that option. You have the ability to name your search. You can make it a personal save search, group save search, or global save search. If you make a group or global, that means other people within your division or department can see that same search. You can also make it your default search, which means that's going to be the first search that comes up. And then if you ever go in and you need to overwrite the search, you can do that as well. So say you go into your default search and you figure out you want to add something like a column, you can add your column and then you would just click on save this search. You would click on make it my default search, overwrite this save search, and then you would just click on what search you're overwriting over here and then click on save this search. Any questions about save searches? All right, we'll move forward. So hiring active employees for student positions. Right now, departments should not submit postings or hiring proposals in PeopleAdmin for active employees at this time. If the student's already an active employee in Banner, the department should only submit an ePath. We are eventually looking to move all positions going through PeopleAdmin, but until a Banner integration is implemented, only new hires will be submitted through PeopleAdmin. All right, creating student postings. I'm not actually going to walk you through this, but just a couple of things I want to note on student postings. Of course, in order to create a posting, all you have to do is navigate across the student postings page. From the student postings page, there is an orange button that will appear in the right-hand corner that says Create New Posting. You'll click on that button, and then you'll have a box that pops up that will have several options for you to choose from. One is Create from Position Type. This is a blank form, then you will have to completely fill out. Create from Posting. This allows you to clone a posting once you actually get in and create other postings. So if you've never created a posting before, you won't be able to clone a previous posting. But once you actually go into the system, create postings, you'll be able to clone those previous postings. And then you have create from posting template. This is something that the graduate school is requiring. They gave us posting templates for graduate assistants, graduate teaching assistants, and graduate research assistants, and it just includes required verbiage for each of their positions. Once you select a method for creating the posting, you'll enter the posting form. If you are creating from a posting template, I will tell you, once you enter that posting form, there's going to be several fields that say, please update, or some type of verbiage that you need to update that field, because in order for us to create that posting template, we had to put something in the required field. So unlike creating from a position type, when you go into that form and you're going to have those highlighted fields that show you exactly what you need to complete, this is going to be a little bit different, because in order for us to have completed that template, we actually had to include something in those fields. So you will need to go back and review to make sure that those fields are accurate and have your information in those. And then, of course, if you're unfamiliar on posting a position, you can visit our PeopleAdmin Center or Resource Center. You can find that at aub.ie/PA7. We have a great user guide that takes you step by step through creating a posting.
Hey, Amy, we've got a quick question.
Okay.
Back to what you were saying about students that are active. Can you confirm that, do they need to be in an active job or just active in general?
Active in general. So if their PAMPL is active, they don't necessarily have to have any active jobs. Their PAMPL just has to be active in order for you to add a job to the system or an EPAF.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving forward to posting types. There are two posting types for student employment. There's direct hire, and then there's recruitment. Direct hire is the process that's used when a department has already identified the candidate that they're wanting to hire. These are privately posted so that only the selected candidate can apply. And we're going to kind of elaborate on these direct hire postings in just a minute, but they can remain open to hire multiple individuals. And then recruitment, this process is used when you need applications to review and you want to open them up for students to apply for. Recruitment postings will be closed, and that's just to ensure that your department is receiving an up-to-date applicant pool. And then hiring multiple candidates from one posting. So this is a little bit of what we just talked about that direct hire posting. So a great feature of PeopleAdmin is the ability to hire multiple candidates in one posting. So we've got several departments that go in. You can actually create a generic posting for a graduate research assistant. And let's say that you are hiring for several different supervisors, but the actual requirements for the position, a GRA position, are the same. So the essential functions and the job summary is the same. If they are the same, you can hire multiple candidates into that position. So again, you're hiring 5 GRAs in one position. You can move forward with that. They can have different pay rates, different supervisors, different position numbers, because all of that information is going to be noted on the hiring proposal. These positions can also be left open semester after semester as long as those essential functions in the job summary stays the same. All right, now moving forward to providing posting links to student applicants. For direct hire postings, you will need to make sure that you're providing the correct link for applicants to apply for positions. This link is provided to internal PeopleAdmin users in 2 ways. The first is in email notification once the posting is transitioned to the workflow state of open, not posted. You'll want to look for the link that's labeled as a direct link to applicant. So the notification that you get once the posting is transitioned into open, not posted, it will have 2 applicant links. One will say direct applicant link to internal user, and then the other is for the applicant. So you'll want to make sure that you differentiate between the 2 and send the correct link to your applicant. Another way to get that link is you can actually look at the top of your posting, and I can show you that very quickly. You'll just go to your postings, click on student employment. And then you're going to want to click on the position that you're wanting the link for. Once the posting opens, you'll see right up here at the top, there's a gray box, and it tells you that this is your direct link for applicants, and you can just copy and paste that. I will tell you too, we were saying please avoid sending internal user link to the posting because we were receiving a huge amount of requests for internal HR user accounts from students, but we have since taken that option away. So that shouldn't be an issue moving forward. Now to cover the background check for graduate positions. The background check workflow state for graduate hiring proposals is a required workflow state, as I said earlier. If your student has already completed a background check prior to being entered into PeopleAdmin, departments should still continue moving through this workflow state and just notate in the system that the background check has been complete before submitting to your HRL dean for review. In addition, departments should communicate to the student that they'll receive a request to complete a background check from the system, and they should ignore it. We have received a ton of questions, especially from those students who has completed, they have completed that background check and they're a little confused on if they need to complete it again. So if you know they've completed that background check, please make sure you're reaching out to them to let them know that they can just disregard this email. Also, departments need to pay special attention to the field in the hiring proposal that says background check code. This is under the budget details tab once you enter into the hiring proposal. This information is pulled into the email template that's generated once you move it to the workflow state of background check. If nothing is submitted here, it will just be blank, and it's going to leave the potential new hire a little confused on what they're supposed to do. If your department doesn't have a code, you would just enter some type of instructional verbiage to let them know what they need to do at this step in the process in order to complete their background check. Then moving on to hiring proposal finalized. We've touched on this just a little bit, but once a hiring proposal has been transitioned to the final workflow state of hiring proposal finalized, we lose all ability to edit anything in that form. This includes information like start dates, supervisors, position numbers, etc. So please be sure to alert student employment if you know of any information that needs to be changed before this needs to be finalized or before it has been finalized. And then also, hiring proposal finalized does serve as a notification for the onboarding center to assign onboarding tasks to the new hire. It again does not indicate that the new hire has completed required new hire documents. And then the last thing I want to go over is department onboarding contact. When you are going through your hiring proposal, right under the supervisor field, there is a new field that says department onboarding contact. This means if you as a department admin or anybody who's filling in that wants to make sure that they can oversee and have the ability to look in our records module to see the progress of this student, you'll want to make sure that you notate that person here. And then I will go ahead and turn it over to Christine so she can elaborate on this, and then we'll move forward with going over some onboarding steps.
All right, perfect. I'm ready. All right, so there has been some confusion related to the department onboarding contacts and your actual onboarding center specialist. So I'm glad that Amy took a few moments to clarify and define what the onboarding, departmental onboarding contact person is. In terms of your respective onboarding center specialists, we provided a list here. I'm not sure to what extent you can see it in great detail. However, we have this information available to you if you need it. Please feel free to reach out to myself or Amy or Leanne, and we can provide you with a document that is exactly the same thing as what you see before you. But we'll take a couple minutes for you to take a look at this. Again, we have 4 specialists in the office, well, 3 specialists, including myself, that are here to assist you guys from an onboarding standpoint. And again, we are divided by divisions. If you do not see your respective department or division listed, please feel free to reach out to me and I can provide you with that information. We have had at least one call where someone needed clarification related to that. All right, we can go ahead and navigate to the next slide. All right, so one of the things that we wanted to talk about was just, again, clarifying how our students in particular will be accessing the onboarding records module. We have had a lot of students, or at least departments, that have communicated to students that they will be receiving notifications from the system to log into the system. That is true, that the system does send an email notification. However, oftentimes what we've heard is that it may be going to spam, or students are unable to identify that link, specifically because the link itself, again, it looks somewhat similar to spam mail, so it may be going into the junk folder. So what we're encouraging students to do in particular is to go ahead and utilize our direct login link to access the system and view their respective tasks, opposed to just waiting for an email notification to be sent. So what we provided for you here is the link that those individuals will follow. So again, I encourage you to copy that down, and when you're communicating with your students, encourage them to utilize this link. Amy's touched on this once before, but I'll again reiterate this. But they will go directly to this website, and when they see the obby, just as you demonstrated earlier, they will use their applicant username and password to log in. Many students do not recall their username and password, so we have been assisting them with that in the onboarding center. All they have to do is give us a call, and we'll provide our contact information in the chat for you guys. And we can provide them with their username, so that way they can get logged in, and if we need to reset a password, we can do so as well. But we have been aiding many students, because oftentimes there is a lapse between the time that they've applied for the position and the time that they are actually hired to complete their onboarding tasks. All right. The next thing is navigating to the employee records module. Oftentimes, as soon as the employee logs into the system, they will be directly into their task list, but depending on what other permissions they may have in the system, they may have to navigate at the top of their applicant tracking system. So Amy is here. This is the applicant tracking system page. At the very top left corner, they will see 3 dots. You'll click the 3 dots and the menu will appear for PeopleAdmin. They will select the Employee Records module, and then the Employee Records module will open up in a separate window. We'll give this a few moments for it to load, and then I'd like to really kind of talk you through this, what they will see from here. So again, once they are in the Employee Records module, they will have a My Task list. This is where they'll see everything that has been assigned to them. What we're going to do is pick a student right now so that way we can show you specifically what the student's view will look like.
Does anybody have a student they can give us?
Awesome. Perfect. Aiden would be a good one.
Is it AIDEN?
I think it's ADAN maybe. Perfect. 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 So what we'll do is we'll impersonate the student just again so that way you guys can see specifically what tasks they have. Oh, maybe not. He's already completed everything. Okay. So what happens is once we complete the task, and again, the reason why we're starting to see more and more 0 tasks listed is because we have definitely been working with students to get their tasks completed so they can get onboarded into the system. So what happens is they will have a list of tasks available for them to complete. After they've completed those respective tasks, those tasks will move from the window that says needs attention to the tab that then says completed. So as you can see here, it shows that this particular student has completed these respective tasks that they can go back and view. So we see the tax forms listed here, personal data form listed. There are actually a host of tasks that they are initially assigned. I would say it's somewhere between 10 and 16, depending on whether they're a graduate or an undergraduate student. So some of the tasks will not reappear for them to go back and view, especially if it's something that they just simply need to mark as done. But here, there are some forms that they still have access to and can go back and view. Okay? So any questions about the checklist or what they can see? We're also going to show you from your point of view what you will see, because again, this is the student's view, so you will not see this when you log into the system to check the progress of your students. But this is what they will see. Any questions about the student's view? I think the biggest obstacle here is just getting them to the employee records module. There have been countless amount of students that I've talked to that have communicated to their department admins that they have completed all of their tasks. And lo and behold, I will get them on the phone and walk them through the system, and they're like, oh my goodness, I've never seen this before. So again, getting them to the employee records module, I think is the greatest obstacle. So we did want to take some time to show you how they need to navigate in. Now, from a department admin or an HRL standpoint, I do want to show you what that would look like from your view. Oh, okay. Do you want to take some questions while we navigate there, Jenna?
Yeah, do you see this one here? Why would a person show their task as 50% complete after they have been added to banner?
I think that's an excellent question. Okay, so a couple of things for you guys to be aware of, and perhaps this is an excellent segue. That's a great question to ask at this time. So what we're looking at right now is from a department admin's view, you will see a user list along the left side of your screen. Okay, this will be all the students that have been assigned within your respective department, and you will see checklists and folders for that individual. For the checklist in particular, what you'll want to do is click the respective checklist that you'd like to view their progress on. So let's click the new hire paperwork. And all of the assigned tasks with that respective checklist will appear. And so the question that you asked in terms of how would someone show 50%, basically if the employee has completed all of their respective tasks, once they've done their part, all of those documents then go into workflow with our internal HR unit. So their tax forms will be directed to payroll, and their personal data form and invitation to self-identify as a protected veteran will go to our records unit. Okay, so in order for someone to get into Banner, the basic documentation that is needed is that personal data form and invitation to self-identify as a protected veteran. So as long as that document is there, a person can be added into Banner. And then from there, their tax forms are uploaded and attached to that employee record that is created. So if an individual still has documents that are in workflow, so for instance, if that W-4, A-4, and C-4 still show as in workflow, they can still be in Banner because all that was needed to create the employee record is the personal data form and the invitation to self-identify as a protected veteran.
And the completed
Does that make
I-9.
sense? Oh, thank you. That's not one of the most critical components. Thank you, Amy. Definitely, and the completed I-9. Those are the basic documents that are needed in order to process or to create an individual in the system. So they can still show as in a 50% completion because they still have those tax forms that are in workflow. Great question, and we get that all the time. So again, if we want, we can go ahead and exit out of that one. Any other questions related to the checklist? All right, that was a good question. All right, do you want to switch back over to the presentation? Oh, let me throw out one more thing related to that. We can still navigate back to the presentation. It's something that I could just communicate. Some of the things that you will also see still related to that same 50% question. I do want to clarify the statuses because you may see different statuses that you're unfamiliar with. The very first status that you will see when an employee has been assigned is going to show a blank status if the employee has not touched the document. Once they touch the document, which simply means that they have opened it up to even view it, they may not have put anything in it. They may have started putting something in it. They will see something that says a status of in process. So if you ever have an employee that indicates that they've completed a document, but you see that it shows that it is in process, that often means that they have not finalized that document and saved it or submitted the final draft. That is critical because that is another reason why a person's checklist will not show 100% complete because they may have something that they have not completed but may have thought they did. So I did want to throw that out there as well in terms of what they will see in terms of in process. Once they have submitted their document and it is now in HR workflow, it will show in workflow. And then once the workflow has been completed and HR has done their part, it will then show filed. So those are going to be the different statuses that you will see related to the document. Okay? All right, now moving back into the presentation, I did want to talk a little bit to you guys about, we're supposed to be showing the other view. The other view that we wanted to show was for HRLs. HRLs also have the ability to monitor students' progress on completed tasks by looking at their report. Sorry, Amy, I know I threw you off.
I'm sorry, I got interrupted. What am I doing?
Oh, we're going to go back so I can show them how to access the HRLs to access the checklist through the report.
Okay.
Yep, perfect. All right, so what you'll do is for HRLs, and we have defined that I believe only HRLs are the ones that have this particular access. What they will do is at the top right corner of the screen, you'll see a reports icon. You will click that report, and then the reports options will appear. What you'll do is the very first report that will default for you is the checklist completion. This is the one that you would like to navigate to. What we'll do is select the new hire paperwork checklist. What this report will allow you to do is see a comprehensive list of all the individuals that are in your respective division, and you'll be able to kind of see an overview of who's completed what task. So if we wanted to just look at our student hires, what you can do is narrow it down by under where it says position type. We will select student employees. And then we'll hit apply at the bottom. And then it will give us a list of all of our employees. You will also need to filter even more so down by your department. So we can put perhaps maybe liberal arts. And that would allow us to see all the students that we've employed or that we are onboarding. So right now we see that there are 2 employees that are with liberal arts that have been that have gone through the workers module. We can see all the tasks that they've been assigned for this particular checklist, and we can check the status of completion. So as we can see, the very first employee, Kenzie, has completed all tasks, and all of her tasks have been filed. Anything that has a green circle with a check mark means that not only has the student done their part, but HR has done their part as well. On the opposite side, you see Clarissa. Clarissa has some that have been filed and others that are still considered to be in workflow. So if you see a green circle that does not have a check mark, that does mean the employee has done their part, but the internal HR units have not finalized their part. So I did want to make sure that I showed you that as well. I believe someone just mentioned in the chat that they have found this to be a very useful tool. This is definitely useful on my end as well when we're trying to see a larger scope. I've been using this, pretty much daily now, so it is very helpful. All right, so now we can switch back to the presentation. Perfect. All right, so we can hit the next slide. Perfect. All right, so I did want to take a moment to really detail out for you guys what the onboarding process looks like. We've had many questions related to the process. We can go back up one, Amy. Perfect. We've had a lot of questions about what onboarding timeline and processes look like, so I did want to take the time to explain that to you all. The hiring proposal finalization. So when a hiring proposal is finalized, that is onboarding's notification to begin onboarding events. So what we do is we receive an email when a hiring proposal has been finalized that tells us to go ahead and initiate onboarding events. So what we do is we go into the ATS system, and then we will pull that student from the ATS into the employee records module. So if you've seen that a student has a hiring proposal finalized, but you do not see them in employee records module, that means that we have not initiated that onboarding task. I highly encourage you guys to reach out to either myself or anyone on the onboarding team to inquire about the status of that. It is our goal at this point that we are trying to get those turned around anywhere between, I would say, 0 to about 48 hours. So again, we are getting email notifications of the hiring proposal being finalized. It is our hope that at that time we can go ahead and move them over. But depending on the influx of hiring proposals that are finalized that particular date, there may be somewhat of a delay. So it can take upwards of about 48 hours, but hopefully no more than that. So again, if you've noticed that an employee has been in the hiring proposal finalized state for quite some time, just let us know. I will be very transparent to say that once we launched the student records module, we had nearly 200 or 400 students in that module, so it did take us more time. So don't call my bluff on that to say, hey, I've seen people that sat out there for a week. I get it, but we have really been much more efficient now that we have a better grasp on this module. Again, this is very new for us. As well, but I think we have really streamlined our processes and are much more efficient now. The next step is after we move the student from the ATS system into the employee records module, the student will receive an email notification at that moment that tells them that they have been assigned tasks to complete in employee records module. Not only does it tell them that they have tasks to complete, but it even specifies what particular tasks need to be done first. So the very first task will say that they need to complete their work authorization, which is that I-9. It notifies them that they need to go outside of the employee records module to complete the I-9 in our Equifax system. That same email also tells them that they need to contact our onboarding center to schedule an appointment. And then it also tells them that they need to log into the system to complete all their remaining tasks. Again, I do think that that is an area of confusion for many students because they believe that as soon as they complete the section 1 of their I-9, that they have completed all of their respective tasks, when that is actually just one of many that needs to be completed. And oftentimes when I'm working with students directly navigating through these steps with them, that's exactly what happens is I went into the website, I completed what I needed to, I should be done. But again, if you guys could better assist us in communicating that they still need to go inside the system, not only to check all other tasks that need to be done, but to mark off that they have completed at least section 1 in anything else that they've done, okay? All right, so after the other part that I wanted to clarify was that, again, students must take action to reach out to onboarding to schedule an appointment. There are 2 ways that they can do so. The first way that they can schedule an appointment is we have a link that will take them to an online scheduling system, and they can input their information there. The second way that they can do it is they can contact us directly. And again, we'll put that in the chat for you guys in just a moment. After they have scheduled an appointment, we will complete their I-9 when they arrive. When they come into the onboarding center, the second thing that we will do is we will confirm at that moment that they have completed all of their tax forms and other new hire paperwork that's aligned with that new hire checklist. We do have computers in the center where if a student has not completed those actions, we will go ahead and sit them down at that time, if they have time permitted, and complete all those tasks while they are there. Once they've completed their new hire paperwork, that information goes directly into our HR internal unit's workflow. So again, their personal data form and invitation to self-identify goes to records, and then the tax forms go to our payroll unit. All right. Once records receives the PDF, they will then enter the employee into Banner. And then once that is processed, our payroll team can then attach those tax forms to that employee. Once payroll completes their actions, the employee is able to then set up their direct deposit and complete any remaining onboarding tasks that are required as well. All right, any questions about that process? All right, we will transition to the next slide. All right, one of the other things that we really wanted to talk in detail about was supervisor responsibilities within the employee records module. There seems to be some confusion related to that. The first thing I wanted to clarify was the supervisor versus the department onboarding contact. I did want to make sure that people understood that if you indicate a departmental onboarding contact, as Amy described earlier, if you include that person as on the hiring proposal, we are replacing the supervisor with that individual, because it is our understanding that that means this individual is assuming responsibility for ensuring that the individual is completing all required onboarding tasks. Okay. We have been told that a lot of supervisors are technically hands-off in that process, so we are replacing them with the departmental onboarding contact. If there is no departmental onboarding contact listed, then those responsibilities and tasks are automatically assigned to the supervisor. So I've already received a couple emails since the sessions that we've been completing related to this, inquiring about, you know, who should have gotten it and who did get it. So we've been trying to fix that to make sure the correct people are getting what they need. Again, I think just a lot of people out there have been confused about how to utilize that departmental onboarding contact. But there are 2 respective tasks that these individuals are required to do. The very first thing is the access request form. This is making sure that the employee that you are hiring has the correct access they need to enter into and out of different buildings, okay? This is a task that is not completed inside of PeopleAdmin. It is a task that's completed in the normal protocol, which is a link that the university uses. So all they'll do is they'll copy this link into a separate window, and they will complete the request that way. Now, I will also say that not all individuals have access to complete this form. There seems to be some confusion related to that as well. I would check with your department admin or your HRL to find out who has the authority to make these type of requests. It is my understanding that the permissions are granted by your department head. So again, if you have any questions about who has access to do so, I would again just communicate with your HRL or your department head to find out who has authorization to complete these tasks, and we will ensure that it is processed accordingly. All right. The next task is desktop setup. Again, this is really, you know, the workstation for that employee. We do want to make sure that if this employee is working on site, that they have all computer equipment that they may need, access to phone lines if necessary. Again, a lot of this is more applicable to our full-time hires, but there are students that also have workstations as well. So what we want to do is just make sure that you understand that is a required task of the department, and that the right person has the access to make that happen. All right. Again, if the supervisor isn't the correct person to complete these actions, just please make sure we can't emphasize enough the use of that departmental onboarding contact. All right, next slide.
All right, and last but not least, we have started sending system updates, tips, and best practices. And this is just to ensure everyone's receiving the communication needed to be successful in this PeopleAdmin system. The emails are coming from Jenna Richards, and they are all titled PeopleAdmin pointers. And we ask that you please pay close attention to these emails and the information that's included. And then again, you can always visit our PeopleAdmin Resource Center page at aub.ie/PA7. There's several helpful resources on that page. Any other questions today?
Did everyone see the response back from Jenna on y'all? Some of you had asked about the capability of getting access to those checklists. So that's something from a system perspective, we would have to check on the capability. But something we explore with PeopleAdmin, the vendor. So we'll be communicating that if that is the case.
And we have a question. How or when is the official start date determined?
This should, it should be determined by the department, but you should give ample opportunity to get through PeopleAdmin and through the onboarding system.
Yeah, and keep in mind when you are, if you are hiring foreign nationals into that position, you have to make sure that the hire date you are selecting for them is not prior to their work authorization begin date. So, that could be, a little bit later in the process in terms of what tax compliance has reviewed. So we just want to make sure that, we're not having to adjust hire dates based on that. Because once the hiring proposal is finalized, we cannot fit the hiring proposal. So we have to handle all of that coordination and conversation outside of the system. So that's just a pointer to keep in mind when it comes to foreign nationals. But Amy is correct. Try to give as much time as possible and feasible so we can get everything done, because I've had to have a couple of conversations where people were not authorized to work and they have worked. And if they're a student, it affects their status and they could get deported if it comes to on the international side. So we just don't want to have to go through all of that.
Okay, guys, how much time approximately to get through the system and onboarding processes?
I think that's a great question.
That's going to vary. Oh, I'm sorry. That's
No,
actually going to vary between how quickly your person actually gets in, makes an appointment, and completes their information. I've seen a hiring proposal complete in less than a day. That didn't include.
And I would also say, one of the things that we've often noticed is that our students are coming into the center for their onboarding appointment and they are not prepared to have, to show original documents. So we've been really trying to over communicate that, because oftentimes, especially with student employees, they don't have those documents with them and they've got to request them from parents. And so because of that, there is a lapse in time of their onboarding process because they have to wait for those documents. And we're often telling them overnight, but again, overnight, mail is expensive. So if it has to run, through traditional mail, then it can take upwards of a week, and we have had that happen. So again, just if you guys could really assist us in making sure that when a hire is made, that you are communicating that they will have to complete a work authorization and that there are, documentation that they'll need to provide, so that way they can begin working on that very early on in the process, and making sure that by the time they are assigned that checklist, that they have everything they need. Because again, as Amy said, if they have everything they need, we can get that done in a pretty reasonable manner. And again, just like you mentioned, Amy, getting a hiring proposal finalized in a day, the onboarding process can be completed within the day as well. Now, in terms of getting them processed in Banner, I think Leanne may have to speak a little bit to what that process looks like. But ultimately, the onboarding steps in terms of completing their checklist, that can be done pretty quickly.
We do need your help, as I mentioned earlier, on just, encouraging your new employees, your new student hires to actually do and take the action that they are given in the instruction, just certainly, lack of a better word, nagging them to make sure that they're doing what they need to do, because this information is on them to complete in terms of the majority of the information, and then we can get that I-9 completed. When records receives that information and they're looking, as Christine pointed out earlier, looking for those pointed pieces of information because they need the information that is contained on that form, that personal data, the veteran, the disability, not the disability, but the veterans information, and also the I-9. Those pieces, fields on those forms are needed to create the record. So as you know, the volume is tremendous. So they do try, they're pulling constantly, there's keying today, just trying to get those in. That's why we have spent a lot of time trying to see how we could integrate some of these records to eliminate some of that manual entry. And that will help on time. So we're working to try to see where we can make improvements there.
Any other questions?
We will share, and Amy, I think you may have mentioned this, but we will share the PowerPoint out with all the session attendees and
Yes,
sending
I'll send
that.
it out this afternoon.
Okay. Well, let us know if you continue to experience anything. The Onboarding Center is here to assist you to make sure that you are familiar with the system. We have no intention of taking that hire. Your hire, but we all need to partner together to make sure that we're successful in getting them done. So there are several pieces to it. So just trying to make sure that we can work together to get those hires completed so they can get in the systems and therefore they can get hired or get paid in the system and on time. So let us know, reach out to us, any of us, if you've got any comments or any concerns or anything like that.
Leanne, we've got a couple of last minute questions here regarding ePass and about getting notified when those have gone through. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I will. So I have asked for records to confirm and to continue with that process of when they are putting in a new hire PAF, they are indicating the HRL as an FYI notification, and they are also indicating the onboarding contact as the notification, receiving the notification as well. There have been some of those that have been blank, or there have been some cases where that onboarding contact may not have access to do I-9s, therefore you can't enter them for a notification because they can't, see that. So they would just put the HRL in both particular spaces for that notification. So I do know when there was, a lot of them and they were trying to get familiar and pull it in, that some people were not being entered on that. So I've made that clear this week that we definitely have to do that. So hopefully there won't be any issues going forward on that. So, hopefully you won't see any gaps in that. right, with any other question? I don't see any more. And that would go for any
Blue.
PAF type.
I think we're caught up on questions in the chat.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Yes, thanks everyone. Hope you all have a great long weekend.
Thank y'all.